Hello, fam. You ever wonder why change is so hard for yourself, for others? Um, why you want to do better and you don't do better? You ever wonder about those things? Let me tell you, change has a cycle. Okay, we make things difficult for ourselves because we are not aware that it's a cycle. Change has a cycle, right? So I want to make you aware of this because our brains, God love them, they work against us in changing things. Now, yes, we have the ability in neuroplasticity, our brains can be changed, and we love that. But also, our brains kind of shortcut us. So, this is how triggers form in our reality. When we get hurt, what our brain does is it says, oh, this thing hurt me. This thing is painful. So if you get stung by a bee, let's say, and it's very traumatic for you, every time you see a bee, you're going to be afraid. You're going to run from it. As a simple example. Okay. So we do this a lot. Our brain does this all the time, and it's actually meant to help us. And so when we're trying to cultivate our mind and we're trying to cultivate our character, change has to happen. And there's a whole cycle that goes into it. So I want to bring your awareness around this because I feel not enough people are aware of it. And I am not really teaching it. So I want to put it somewhere so you guys know. Okay. So the way change usually starts is what we call discontent. Okay. The brethren are discontented. They are not happy with how their life is going. There's some area of your life that is not up to your standards, expectations, or quality, right, of living. Now, I have a theory. I haven't published this yet. I will eventually. I have a memoir book coming out, and part of that memoir has to do with the 8 ways we grow. Okay. And again, there are people who cover this in different ways. My theory from Dr. Michelina is physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, intellectual, financial, sexual, and social or relational. You can chuck a vocational in there. I don't. Okay. Because those are we're looking at the self here. Yes, vocation is an area of self, profession is an area of self, but it's not something that you have intrinsic to you. When you grow yourself, your vocation naturally changes. Okay. So there's a look at your life physically, your physical body, mentally, your mental state, emotionally, how you're feeling about things, intellectually, how you grow, intellect, sexually, your sexual life, your financial life, your spiritual life, and your social life. Are there places in any of those that feel not the best? You're a little discontent there. That's probably a place you're wanting to change, but maybe you're not fully willing to change, right? You kind of hang in there, you tolerate it, you know that guy's not the one, but you deal with him. You know you don't like your weight, but you don't really want to go to the gym and you like to snack, so you deal with it. You don't want to maybe do the work that comes with the actual change. So you're discontent, right? This is step one in the change cycle. You are discontent. You're not the happiest. You're like, this kind of sucks, but I can manage. I can make it through. Well, then eventually, when something in your life is so at odds with what you want it to be, there will be a breaking point. All right. Now, unfortunately, the higher your level of tolerance for crap that doesn't serve you, the longer you're in the discontent phase. That's why when you know your self-worth really well, the minute you're discontent, something doesn't hit, you're like, nah, I'm all set. I'm out. I'm not dealing with this. Thank you, though. Not the one. Thank you. Right? Like people who don't know their self-worth, who have low self-worth, who have insecurities, they will be in the discontent phase for a while. But at some point, something will happen that tips them over. And you are so much, you're no longer discontent, you are done. You're like, I'm all set. It ain't gonna happen. It can just be burnout. You can be burned out in any of those ways. Physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, intellectually. You can have intellectual burnout. You can have spiritual burnout. You can have emotional burnout. You can have mental burnout. Mental burnout you get from thinking too much, negative thoughts, cognitive distortions, analysis paralysis, always thinking, never doing. Okay, so you can get burnt out in any way that you can grow. And I feel that people don't know this. So let me be the one to tell you. A lot of times, the breaking point, if there's so many areas in your life that you're malcontent with, you're unhappy with, your whole life feels like a breaking point, right? Like, I don't know if you've ever been there, but I have. It's not fun. You want to die, literally. Suicide feels better than trying to live through everything breaking down. I urge you, if you are there or have been there, to know, keep going, even if you don't know what direction to go into. And I am sorry if you have been in that place. Because if there's so many things that feel like they're going wrong, your whole life feels like a breaking point. And the change that you want to make is your existence here. And that's not the change. I know it is tempting. Okay, guys, I do know. I promise you. That breaking point can be something that is a dramatic event that hits your breaking point. Sometimes we have things in our life that happen, there's no going back from. Obviously, if you guys know anything about my background, like when I got jailed, when I got a felony, there's no going back to a time you didn't experience that. That also happens in cases where you've been sexually abused, if you've been sexually molested, if you've been abused in kind of any way. A lot of times there's no going back from that thing. I remember when I was walking home, I was 14, I had just been raped. I didn't know what the heck was going on. And I was like, I'll never go back. I was 14. Don't know why I was thinking like this, but I was like, I'll never be a virgin again. Like, I'll never go back to that. There are just some things when you cross that threshold, you can't go back, and it's breaking point, and sometimes it will break you. Right? When you are, as a woman, when you are pregnant, you will never be not pregnant. You just have to figure out what to do. You're not going back to a time where you didn't have life in your womb. Right? So there are things that are life-breaking points. And the only thing to do is move forward from. So change cycle to 1, you're uncomfortable with something. Change cycle to 2, something snaps, something breaks, and you cannot take it any longer. So what do you do? Decision time. Now, here is the thing that sometimes happens. You've probably seen this. It's also called an abuse cycle sometimes, because those steps are the first steps of the abuse cycle as well. And the decision is to leave. But then they come on back, right? That's a cycle. The change cycle, you make a you make a decision. You decide, I don't want to be in this anymore, right? You decide, you look at the scale and you're like, oh, I'm way overweight. I don't want to do this. You look at your life, you look at your relationship, and you're like, I don't want to be in this anymore. You're ready to move through, to make some changes that move away from that immense pain. Now, again, there are 4 main motivators to change. John Maxwell talks about it. But the most pressing one is kind of the one I'm talking about. And that is, it gets so painful you have to change. Right? There are other reasons why people change. We're not talking about that. Okay? We're not talking about why people change. Like I said, I like John Maxwell's take on it, because he does have those 4 kind of reasons why people change. But we are talking about the painful route, right? You have experienced something that is beyond your capacity to deal with anymore, and you don't want to. Okay. And so that is the cycle we're talking about here. I'll touch on at the end why people change. But of the reasons why, one of them is that you're hurt enough, you're upset enough that you do change. And that's following this sort of trajectory. So you make the decision. You're like, wow, this has really sucked for some time. I don't want to do it anymore. I am going to change. And you take a first step toward it, which could be anything. Sometimes it's checking into therapy, sometimes it's going for a run, sometimes it's joining a gym, sometimes it is breaking up with the person. You make the decision, and it's the first step to the change. And usually people feel pretty hopeful at that first step. A lot of times it's short-lived. This is usually what happens. All right. Usually what happens after you're like, yeah, I like did this thing, the fear comes in. And you're like, what if no one likes me again? What if I can't pay my gym membership? What if I don't go to the gym every day? What if I X, Y, and Z thing, right? So the fear will always come in because you've now taken a step toward the unknown. And a lot of times the brain trying to help you, there's situational fear and there's psychological fear. Psychological fear is the one we're dealing with here. There's likely no situation that's actually threatening you. Now, that I say that softly because there might be sometimes in very serious abusive situations when somebody makes the step to get out of it, it does in fact get worse and there's a situational fear where someone comes after you. So I'm not saying it's not sometimes a situational fear because there is that too. Situational fear being there's a legitimate situation that is threatening you. Like a bear's running at you. Somebody's coming at you with a gun. Situational fear. Psychological fear is this fear that most people have in the change cycle, which is what's going to happen? I don't know this version of myself. What if nobody likes me anymore? What if this? What if that? Right? And so what ends up happening is first you're discontent with your situation, something breaks and you're like I can't deal with this anymore. You make the decision to change, and then once you start on the path of change, you're like I don't know this well. I don't know the outcome of this well. Maybe you're going to the gym for the week and you don't see any change. You're like, this sucks. I don't want to do this anymore. And so a lot of times you get kind of stuck because you're like, I don't want the life I had and I don't see the life I want. And this transitional sort of, I call it a wilderness because that's a biblical concept, the wilderness. Egypt is the thing you didn't want. The promised land is the thing you do want, but there's this really ugly desert phase, this really dry, dusty season that's a wilderness season that you need to go through, which is not fun, unfortunately. It is not fun. And so that fear, a lot of the times, is cemented in that transitional phase, that transitional season, right? There are other things that, of course, that play into this, sometimes hormones, sometimes, all things. But what will happen a lot of times is you make that first step, you do it for a little bit, and then you stop feeling empowered. You don't feel strong in the routine. Your character isn't cultivated enough to continue on with the thing, and you want to go back to Egypt. You want to go back to the thing. And you doubt that you made the right decision. You doubt yourself. Everything looks like it kind of sucks. And you're like, I'm damned if I do and I'm damned if I don't. Right? And so then what happens is you forget. You forget how bad that thing was, right? And I really love the example here. Even if you don't like the Bible or know the Bible, that's fine. But I like the example of the wilderness because or of the Egyptians or of the Israelites in Exodus because they hated it in slavery. They were in bondage for 400 years making bricks for Pharaoh, and they were begging to be let out of it. God lets them out, and they're like, "Dang, we should go back to Egypt. It was safe there. At least we knew what we were eating. At least we knew." And that's what happens. The fear of change is so all-consuming that you're like, you know what? That situation I had discontent about is actually not that bad. I was just being dramatic. It's not that bad. Like, it's all right. Like, it's okay. Like, why not? It's okay, right? You forget. And you're like, when weighing it in the balance, the new thing looks scarier than the old thing. It's the devil you know that's better than the devil you don't. And sometimes, in some cases, you've been in that situation, the original situation, for so long, you form an identity around it, right? And so what'll happen is you're like, really, that abusive situation wasn't that bad. That job I hated wasn't so bad. That job is better than, trying to do self-employment. So I'm just going to try to go back to that. To be quite honest, the Lord has been working with me on that one because it is so easy to go back to getting a steady paycheck than it is to just be like, I hope I make enough today. I hope I sign a client today. I hope I have a conversation that makes money today. And it is. And like the Lord called me into self-employed business 5 years ago. And I've been like half in and half out of it for 5 years. And you guys can see the evidence of that if you go back and look at this YouTube channel. All right, you'll see the evidence of it. There's times I'm consistently posting if you go all the way back to 2020. And then there's times you don't hear from me for months. Why? I'm being disobedient to the call. That's why. Because it's hard because you're like, I don't have money to make ends meet. I can't even pay my electric bill. And so the change, the actually doing it long enough to see breakthrough, you're like, no, I'm just gonna go back to this thing. Change cycle. Okay. So amnesia is a part of that change cycle. You really forget. How I Met Your Mother talks about drunk goggles. I don't know if you ever saw that episode or you ever watched that show, but you put the drunk goggles on and the thing that you're about to end looks better and you get nostalgic about it. It's amnesia. That's what happens. It's amnesia. Okay, so it is a cycle what ends up happening, right? Because what happens? You're like, I tried the new thing. It was scary. The old thing wasn't that bad. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna go back to the old thing. You're gonna go back to the old thing, right? How often do we go back to the old thing? If you've ever tried to change, I will tell you this. Your girl has gone back to the old thing, aka employment, which the Lord very clearly took me out of to do my own business. Um, 20 different times. And they do. You go back to the old thing. You do. You talk yourself out of the new thing. You talk yourself out of what you're looking forward to. You're like, working wasn't that bad. Dating him wasn't that bad. Being overweight wasn't that bad. Nothing's really that bad. I can handle it. I can deal with it. It's fine. And so that thing you were so malcontent with in the beginning, you've tried to break away from, you didn't stick with that breaking, and you went back to it. Okay. So I am sure that most of us have seen this in their life somewhere. In one of those 8 places. I am sure you have seen this. Um, I'm sure you've seen this. And to be honest, if you don't backtrack, the people will try to backtrack you. Like lobsters in a pot, they will try to pull you down. So if you are like, you know what, I'm going to do this thing, I'm going to do this, the people are like, come on, Sally, you've already tried that 6 times. You're not going to do it. The people will backtrack you if you don't backtrack you. If you don't talk yourself out of changing, your friends will, your family will, right? If the people around you aren't helping you to grow and be better and change, you reevaluate your social component. There should be malcontent in your social component. Let's look at it though. Let's say you have discontent with your friend group. You're like they all gossip, they're all liars, like they suck. I don't really like them. And they don't talk about anything I care about. But they're your friends. So you're like, I'll just stay around with it. Then you're like, you know what? I'm tired of this. I don't like this. It's a waste of my time. You're like, I'm gonna break with them. I'm gonna stop talking to them. Okay. Then you realize, well, now you don't have friends. Now you're alone. You're like, well, that sucks. I don't want that. So what do? You go back to the same friends, like, sorry, I've been out for a while. What's everything? And it really is that. I mean, we can apply this to probably any place in your life. I'm trying to help you gain awareness around this so that you can see it where it's been in your life. The call to change is still there. The call to change is still there. So, what do you do after you backtrack? Well, like I keep saying, and I said I'd get back to this, there's really only so many reasons why people actually change. And it is one, extreme pain, right? John Maxwell talks about it. Being hurt enough to change, seeing enough to be inspired, learning enough to want to change, and receiving enough to be able to change, right? And so we either have extreme pain or we have some honesty. It's like, wow, I really love what that person's doing. I want to do that too. Or if they can do it, I can do it. That was me. I had both. I've had all of it, guys. Come on. I had extreme pain, of course. Um, but I also was like, I got really honest with myself and I was like, listen, these people who are running businesses, like, I could do this. I can do this. I'm smart enough. I can do this. And then I was like, but I don't have enough of the resources. I'm not smart enough. I don't know what I offer. I don't know how to offer it. I don't know what audience to talk to. Like, there's a whole bunch of things that had to be figured out in the process. And in the meantime, I tried to figure it out. Guess what I did? Went back to employment and stopped working on it. Right. And so we do want to change. And sometimes we're even willing to change. But when we do the work to start changing, we're like, nah, I'm gonna head on back that way. Right. And then the cycle starts again. And you either look at your situation, you're like, dang it, why'd I put myself back in this? Or you get radically honest with yourself, which most people don't do. They might be influenced by somebody who's being honest, and then they're like, oh, oops, that resonates. That happens. So when we have extreme pain, it is so severe, you have to change. Now, again, like I said, I have had this extreme pain. Often it's not brought on by yourself. Like sometimes, this is why when people ask, like, why does God allow bad things to happen? So you will move. Because otherwise you're too comfortable. That's a fact. So sometimes it's not even you. If you lose a job, if you lose a loved one, sometimes you lose a relationship, sometimes you get into an accident, right? There's severe things that happen in our lives. It's so severe, we cannot go back to who we were, right? And so extreme pain is an extreme motivator. And a lot of times for the people, what happens is you're actually on a spiritual path you're just not aware of. Like it's in you to know, but you don't really cognitively know it. And life will start bringing things around that you are called into and you're just like, nah, I'm over here doing my thing. And if you don't start pulling to that path, something will break in your current path that forces you over to it. There's no reality. I'm going to tell you right now. No reality where I would have ever said, I'm going to step into entrepreneurship and leadership. I'm not going to do it. I would have never said that. I would have never done it. If I didn't lose the only thing I ever wanted to do, which was teach, honestly, and I still teach, obviously, just not in a classroom and not in a traditional way. If I didn't lose that, and I did that, I broke my own path there, I would have never in a million years come into entrepreneurship. I would have never done it. And actually, I can help so many more people now. I just would have never done it. It's the harder, non-traditional path. And so, you know, and that's not to justify doing the wrong thing. It's not. It's just I was so set on my trajectory, my journey, which I knew was not it, by the way, that I would have never made room for another path that was more along the lines of who I really am and who I want to show up as. So Extreme pain can lead us to extreme purpose if we will allow it to, right? Turn your pain into power, turn your pain into purpose, turn your test into a testimony. Most people don't. Most people stay stuck right here. I talk to people every day who have unhealed wounds and unrenewed minds because they had extreme pain that they never dealt with. Every day I talk to people like that. They just don't get over things and they don't alchemize their pain. I mean, I talk to people who are still upset about their parent dying 25 years ago, which again, yes, it's a very upsetting thing that the parent, of course, but that's also the natural order to life. And so we need a renewed mindset on a lot of things. So extreme pain will change you if you let it for the better. If you do not, it will harbor, it will fester. Time does not heal all wounds. Time will fester a wound. And you will operate out of that wound until you grow. That happens a lot. I see it a lot. Okay, so just extreme pain. At some point, if you don't change when you're malcontent and you don't really push through, when you go back to the thing, more pain will come. All the time. Sometimes, though, you get honest and you're like, you know what? I don't really want to change. I don't really want to do the work. I tell you that right now, I am at a weight that I'm not happy about. You can't really see it, but I'm not happy with my weight for my frame and my size. And I am radically self-honest and I'm like, I'm not doing the work. I know what it takes to do the work to get back to the size I want to be at. And I don't want to do it. Let me be so honest with you and myself. And I did. I did. I was like, you know what? I'll look in the mirror and I'll look at the scale and I'm like, I'm so unhappy with this, but I'm not that unhappy with it because I know the work it takes and I'm not doing it. And I am comfortable with the poor food consumption. And I am comfortable with not going to the gym. And I am comfortable with all these things. So listen, we all have things that we need to shift. Everybody is constantly transforming. Okay, this is a constant practice. You grow in one area, but you don't accommodate for it in the other area. Well, guess what? Now you're incongruous in your growth. And you do, get comfortable where you're at. You do get a little addicted to what you know, what feels safe. And it is hard, honestly. It is hard because most people don't get this radically self-honest. They'd rather be the victim. They're like, no, this happened to me. It's like, if you're allowing it, you're the one. And people don't like that. They don't. And so when you get real honest with yourself and you're like, okay, dang, I'm the one doing this. I'm the one allowing this. I'm the one that has the unhealed wounds. I'm the one that has the unrenewed mind. I'm the one that keeps believing the lies that I can't do it. I'm not good enough. I'm not this. I'm not that. It's too hard. That's the lie I'm believing right now, by the way, as far as weight loss goes, is it's too hard. It's too hard, God. I've already done this once and I should have just kept the weight off and I didn't. It's too hard to do it again. That's the lie. No, it's not too hard. I've already done it. Okay, it's not too hard. I've already done it. It just takes work, takes time, takes commitment, it takes discipline, takes intentionality. And I'm like, I don't really want to do that. There's the self-honesty, right? And at some point when I'm like, okay, you know what? Yes, there's a lot, but we can start introducing some healthy habits just a little bit at a time. That's manageable, right? So, self-honesty, breaking points, extreme pain, these are the things that incite change, right? These are the things that incite change. And we don't do the best job of following through with the change that needs to happen in our lives. Okay. And so part of the work that I do and know is important is helping you change, helping you grow, helping you cultivate your character, helping you transform. And that starts with awareness. It starts with self-knowledge, starts with understanding, it starts with realizing that there's a problem. Starts that realizing like, hey, there's something wrong here, there's something amiss here. And and a lot of times we don't. We do what's called seemingly unimportant decisions, SUDs, and we're like, oh, well, this thing's not that big of a deal. We give a little bit here. Oh, that thing's not that big of a deal. We'll give a little bit there. Oh, that thing's not that big of a deal. We give a little. And then eventually we've given so much of ourselves away that we're like, wait, what's even left for me? What the heck is going on here? Right? And so we tend to lack self awareness. We tend to lack good understanding of our own lives. Nobody teaches you self, nobody teaches you story. If you really look at all the ways you learn, there's nobody teaching you about yourself. Unless you're doing it through professional development, personal development, or self help that is on your own time. And usually, when you get to a point that's so painful, you're like, dang, what is going on here? Or you check yourself into therapy or you get yourself a coach. But again, usually that's after the damage has been done. No, your parents really are trying to keep you alive. They're like trying to do the best they can by you. They're not teaching you about you. They're trying to keep you alive. School's not teaching you about you. They're barely teaching you about the subject matter. They're not cultivating your character. They're not helping you be authentic. They're not helping you be the thing you were born to be. They're not cultivating that in you. How can they? That is a one-on-one practice, right? And so you have the hard work, unfortunately, of reparenting yourself, of re-educating yourself, of relearning about yourself, or sometimes learning about yourself in the first place. Right? And so that is what we're always trying to do here. This is my job. This is to help the brethren grow. These are, let me teach you the things that I had to learn because I thought I knew myself and I thought I was doing pretty darn well. Joke was on me. I didn't know myself half at all. And so, the change cycle. I think it's super interesting. I think it's super important. I think it's super helpful. I think it's super necessary. And if that is something that you are interested in doing, changing, growing, learning about yourself, then feel free to reach out, book a call, because a lot of the times we need people to help us through the changes. I did. I did. Um, So much so need people to help me through. I think over the 5 years of my really like intense growth and change, I've probably worked with like 40 different coaches, counselors, therapists, people, and saved my life, saved my life. That's why I'm very passionate about this stuff because it will, if you'll let it, it'll give you new hope. It'll give you a new future. It'll give you good insight. It'll give you a self and a story you can be really proud of and happy with, even if you hate some of the past things you've done or been. And so, yeah, if I can give that to you guys, then that's great. If you want to work together, then let me know. But more than that, I just want to help you become aware of these things. So I will be working to be better at coming to you here to teach you all the character, mindset, leadership, renewing your mind stuff that I can, right? And if that appeals to you, then hang out, subscribe, send it forward, tell your friends. If you like learning here, then hang out here. And if you don't like learning here, then head out, learn from someone else. All right. So I appreciate you guys. I hope that you enjoy it. If you want topics that you are struggling with, just shoot me messages. You can go to my self and story analyst.com website and shoot me messages there. You can drop a comment. I'm not the best at YouTube comments, but I'll try to do better. But yes, so I will be coming to you more regularly with content I hope is helpful for you. And like I said, content that really, really saved my life. So if I can help one other person, that is the goal. So I will see you guys on the next video.